nobody plays locally and nobody plays for their city or their team or their locale anymore. It's always about these events, these showcase events that you pay to play, you travel, and it's not necessarily about team and winning anymore. It's about me, and we're promoting that.
Joe Maddon back with us on Foul Territory.
Yeah.
Joe, how you doing?
Good. I just heard you. Very good. How you guys doing?
Great to have you on. Obviously, want to plug at the top here, and we'll do at the bottom as well. You can follow Joe at Matt Halos and check out his podcast, The Book of Joe, with our friend Tom Verducci. Joe, I wanted to start with innings limits and your thought process on how that works with young starters, and specifically if you've followed what Garrett Crochet is doing, because he's not a rookie. He's been in the league for a few seasons, but only as a reliever. He's dealt with some injuries. If you're the White Sox and you're potentially trading a player like this, how do you handle it on their side and on the side of a contending team if they ask you for your opinion?
One more time. You said innings. That kind of cut out.
Innings cap, like an innings limit
gotcha.
in baseball, you know,
Yeah.
and how you'd handle someone like him who's going to go way past anything he's done before.
That's what I need to know, what he's done before. That's very important. This goes way back, and this all speaks to minor league training, that these guys really don't get trained in a way that when by the time they get to the major leagues, they're able to do things major league pitchers are supposed to be able to do. I stand by that. When I ran his rookie ball, Kirk McCaskill pitched a 9-inning shutout against the Medford A's, like 110 pitches when he was like 21 or 22. Or Bono Lugo did the same thing the next night in Medford. Bobby Kipper threw, I don't advocate this, but 140 pitches for me as a youngster in Salem, Oregon. This is like way over the top, but if you're trying to protect against injury, everybody keeps getting injured anyway. So I don't agree with any of that. So as you're moving it forward, though, based on the way standards are set today, you have to be really aware of the number of innings he's pitched. And I'm into like number of pitches thrown too. I think that matters also. There's a lot of guys that throw 100 pitches in 5 innings or 4 1/3, and other guys might throw 100 more consistently in 6 or 7. So there's a lot of this to be equated with. I look at the individual, yes, track record. If I'm the acquisitional team, I really want to know what that's all about. Is he actually going to be beneficial to me when it matters most, or is he not? The team giving him up, they're going to have to, the value is going to be decreased a bit if this guy's not perceived to be able to help them the latter part of the year. So there's a lot going on. It all starts in the minor leagues. It all starts with overarching philosophy. The idea of protecting from injury to me is really overblown these days.
I completely agree. But let's say you're the manager of the team that picks up Crochet, and you've gotten all your information. You see, well, you know what? I'm painting the picture as a manager based on what I'm getting the information from the White Sox. I'm nervous about his pitch count. This guy comes to you and says, I want to throw. How do you handle him as a manager? Because you are a playoff team before he got there, and you want to win the World Series with this guy. How do you communicate that to a guy who wants to throw?
Well, first of all, it's going to be dictated by the front offices anyway, regardless of who the manager is. So what they tell the manager to think, he's going to think. That's pretty much how it works these days. So from my perspective, I would be reticent if the guy hasn't thrown that much and he comes to me and says that he wants to. I have to ask him to pump the brakes and give him my best call on this whole thing. I mean, there's a lot of times, a player is going to come to you and there's a lot of, testosterone floating around, and guys really want to do more than they might be, not necessarily capable, but maybe ready to do based on how they've been handled in the past. So honestly, when it comes down to a moment like that, it's not so much what the manager thinks. It's what the front office thinks and what they tell him, what they perceive to be his limitations are. And that's going to be the value set.
Can a team win with a front? I mean, win. I mean, the World Series, not make the playoffs, not have a neat story, not over projected wins. Can they win the World Series if the man on the field is not allowed to make the decisions, because that's who sees it and that's who has the pulse every day in a clubhouse?
Well, that has to start way, way sooner than the World Series or the playoffs. That has to be from spring training, and that has to be felt during the course of the year, because there's only one way you're going to get into the rhythm of managing like that, is that you've been managing like that all year. So just to think that you're going to be kind of dictated to during the season and then set loose at that time of the year, it's actually the opposite. You're going to be kind of like maybe set loose a little bit early on, but As things get tighter, the races get tighter, and you have a better opportunity to win, that's when there's going to be more interference. That's been my experience. So that's how it works. I mean, regardless of what people might say and how guys might argue that point, I'm just being honest with you. That's how this thing comes down right now. I believe that Boach had like a freer reign last year from Jump Street, and I don't think he would have done it otherwise. And I'm not saying that he doesn't this year. But overall, if I look through each team, it's hard to imagine any of the guys, maybe Davey somewhat in Washington with Riz. Riz is kind of that ilk. But for the most part, everybody's working from the same sheet of music, following the same set of rules. And that's part of, I believe, why there's so much mediocrity in 500-ness. That second wild card really permits a different method of thinking where being 5, 10, 15, 20 games over 500 isn't as important as it was in the past.
Joe, do you think that's why, and I've talked a little bit about this, the Dodgers, the Rays, they have great success in the regular season, and they get to the postseason, and I know the Dodgers won in 2020, yes, but it was the shortened year and the shortened play or the different playoff format. But why they've had so much trouble? Because they're able to do the taxi squad up and down, right, with their pitchers. So, we have an IL, like, this guy's hurt, we'll send him down, or we'll put him on the 10-day IL. In the postseason, they can't do that. And because they don't use their starting pitchers enough, get deep enough into games, then all of a sudden they get caught and their guys are tired. Like we saw with the Rays against the Dodgers in 2020 when they took Snell out, they brought guys in, they scored.
Yeah, I don't know how you could rely on your bullpen that much. I mean, part of the other part of it is what you do to your bullpen. These guys are gassed by the end of the year. So I listen, I think the game works well when you get minimum 5. And in today's game, I'm not opposed to 6 starters if everybody's used to that. I'm not, because that's also going to ameliorate some minds regarding overwork, overusage. But at least you want at least 5 that you like. And then you got to have like this stockpile somewhat in your minor league system because guys are going to get hurt. The thing we did with the Rays, I can't remember the exact year it was, but Alex Cobb was coming on. So we had a 5-man until right after the All-Star break. Then we broke into a 6-man for about 2 or 3 trips around the order. And then came back to 5. And I really liked that a lot. So even if you could get creative with 5 and then drop a 6 in there once in a while, come back to 5. Because early in the season, with so many days off, rainouts, et cetera, the 6th guy can really make it even more difficult and better. So there's different, you got to like plan this out in advance. And you have to have way more than 5 starters that you dig. And you have to have that arsenal in AAA. Absolutely you do. But the more innings you draw out of your starting pitchers, the better your bullpen's going to be. That's an easy equation to decipher. When you put so much emphasis in innings and high leverage moments as they're described on bullpens constantly, these guys are dead when it comes to September and October.
Agreed. All right. Have you seen, it's been talked about the ABS, right? The automatic balls and strikes with the challenge system and this and that. So I have to ask you, do you remember a game in Texas one time where there was a great call and a great frame by a catcher? Yeah. And it ended a game, and you and Ben Zobrist got really mad. And then the umpire told me the next day that actually that was a strike on the Questec system. So explain to me why you and Ben Zobrist got so mad when Joe Nathan got his 300 save.
The ball bounced almost.
Well, that doesn't matter. It was a strike, and it was a frame. It was the best frame, second best frame in my career.
Oh, that was you?
Oh, it was me.
Oh, dude, I didn't even realize that. Well, there you go again. You're always screwing me somehow. So I mean, that was like the most awful looking strike. If in fact the umpire was giving you straight up good shit, that might have been possible, but it was the worst looking pitch. I mean, what's his name? Nathan knew it was a ball. He was like, when it was told to strike, he became euphoric because that was his 300 save right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the ABS system, there's going to be a lot of visuals. You're right. There's going to be a lot of things that look like a ball that's going to be called a strike. Strike's going to be a ball. There's going to be all that stuff going back and forth. I prefer this because I'm not into that. I do like human beings. I like the idea of having the system, but like maybe having like a little earbud in the umpire's ear for when he misses something. And he's alerted to when he misses something so that during the course of the game, he might be able to improve his strike zone based on information. So in other words, if the ball's like 2 inches, 3 inches outside, he calls it a strike. Put him in his little ear, but it's going to say something. No, that was a ball. That was a strike. So I like that. I like some kind of information going to the umpire during the game. Very subtle, Nobody else knows about it. And this guy needs to start making adjustments based on what he's hearing in his earbud. But I don't like anything. Okay, I do like the ability to reverse really horrible calls. I do agree with that. So that's a good thing. But overall, man, I listen. Tech's taken over the world, man. I'm not into that. I mean, I know a lot of people are. I like heartbeats. I like human beings. I like to be augmented with what we're doing, but not taken over by it.
Well, anytime that I can make a correlation between AJ's career and my career, I love it, because Ben Zobrist was hitting, got thrown out of a game in Chicago in 18. You were managing.
That's right.
And I was back there for that one. So me and AJ, while he's a fringe Hall of Famer, I'm a fringe big leaguer. There was so many correlations that we can make. I appreciate that. Thank you.
That was Phil Cuzzy. And I said to Phil, do you realize that Ben Zobrist is arguing with you? Do you know what that means if Ben Zobrist is arguing with you? How could you sleep at night if Ben Zobrist is arguing with you? You know he's got to be right. He would never argue otherwise. I remember that too. And I played golf with Phil like two winters ago. Good guy.
Yes. And he asked me, he said, was that a strike? I said, Phil, that wasn't even close. He's like, oh, I feel so terrible about throwing those guys out. But it was besides the point. And,
doesn't
you guys
matter. It's fun. It's fun to get thrown. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
So would you be against the challenge system of the ABS then? Since we're on the ABS and that's a human side of it.
Sure. No, listen. Where you're permitting the correction of calls on the bases already, correction of home run, fair ball, foul ball kind of stuff. You're permitting that. I'd have to see it. I watch the NBA and they get into those challenge systems late in the game, and wow, does that slow things down? You talk about speeding up the game, and it becomes rather annoying in a sense. It's one of those things I'd have to see in action. That one for me to be prescient and try to project exactly what I thought is difficult. On the surface, I prefer not, but I'm not that static, and I would be willing to watch it or try it or even see what it looks like in a minor league game to understand a little bit better. I understand it in principle, but in action, it could be something completely different.
Yeah. Joe, you love. I want to know about this because you were a big wine guy after games, and
still am.
So how long after you get ejected would you go in there and have a glass of wine, or would you wait till the game was over? Because I know when I got ejected, I was having a beer as soon as I walked through the door of the clubhouse. So would you wait? And how are you? No, you would not.
No, immediately. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we do agree on at least one thing in life. And
we do. There was a time in Washington I got ejected when Davey Johnson challenged Joe Peralta with having sticky stuff on his fingers. Now, he just pitched for them the year before, so they knew everything about him. So all of a sudden they're going to be smart, challenge him. They kick him out of the game, and I was incensed. I was over by their dugout, all this kind of stuff. So Rosie's the clubby. I walk in. I said, Rosie, give me a shot. I wanted a shot at that point. I needed to settle down. He says, we're not permitted to have alcohol in the clubhouse. And I says, what about everybody in the stands? And furthermore, these guys are 21 and older. All these guys, they're old enough to vote. They're old enough to serve in the war. And you tell me they can't have a drink after the game? The next day, I had like a bottle of Jack and a bottle of Crown in my locker, big bottles. The next day. So yes, there's times it requires Crown, and there's other times just a good glass of wine.
Hey, Joe, I'm going to mix in a couple of fan questions for you. First, sure. Two guys that you know well, obviously, that you were very victorious with. So Comic in the chat says, what do you think of the struggles of Javier Báez and Kris Bryant since leaving the Cubs? Also, I'll just add to this, have you kept in touch with those guys? What are you seeing or what are you hearing?
No, I haven't necessarily. Briefly, I think I've texted Javi once or twice and maybe KB a bit ago, but nothing recently. I know it's awful. It bothers me a lot to see that. I've seen Javi a little bit on the tube, and actually I texted with Scotty Harris, the GM there, because Scotty and I are friends, and it bothers me. It absolutely bothers me. I mean, for me, I'm just seeing Javi. I mean, he's always had the big swing, the John Daly hack, but he's like even more out of control than ever from what I saw. And I just think he needs to reel it in a little bit. I don't even know what his defense looks like. I don't get to watch them a lot on television, but it bothers me. It deeply bothers me. And KB too. I mean, KB's been injured a lot. You would think that he'd tear up that ballpark in Colorado, but that hasn't happened either. So it really, legitimately, viscerally, it bothers me to see these guys struggle so much. I love them both. I hate seeing it. Neither one obviously looks right. I'd have to be there, boots on the ground with them to know a little bit more and talk to them, that kind of a thing. But these guys were so integral and part of the ascension of the Chicago Cubs, and to see them struggle bothers me.
Another fan question from a Cubs fan talking about the state of the Cubs. And since you are the forever godfather of the Cubs, now that you won the World Series there as the manager, what kind of advice or counsel would you give to one of my favorite managers, Craig Counsell, going through this in that city?
Well, I don't know Craig that well, but I know he's done such a wonderful job managing against them a lot. To me, the biggest thing to do there is to, for me, it's about setting your own tone there. Don't ever follow anybody else's advice regarding how to set up your day, what the day's supposed to look like. I don't even know if they're a little bit too uptight. They miss Tim Buss. They miss Tim Buss more than anything. That's the kind of guy that you need. I just watched him in the dugout. It looks like a little bit of an uptight situation. You can't be that way in Chicago. You cannot. You got to be loose. You got to parcel out your work based on a lot of those day games and the weather in the summertime. Just follow your own script. Don't permit others to really infiltrate it so much that you get away from your own game plan and what you do well or best. But I would give that advice to any manager. It just seems to me that there might be a little bit uptight, and they can't be that way.
All right, Joe, staying on that subject, you were also manager of the Angels. What advice would you give to Ron Washington? Because he's kind of going through the same thing you went through for years there, just spinning your tires in Anaheim. No one can seem to get traction.
Yeah, it's difficult. There's a lot of inbred things there that I'm not going to get into that make it more difficult. And quite frankly, the year that I had been let go, we had the best start they had in a long time. We had a tough stretch. I agree with that. But then not really given an opportunity to get it back toward. I went there for that one reason. I wanted to be an Angel. I am an Angel. I grew up an Angel, grew up a California Angel. My thought process was going back there because that's who I am. I'm a Hazleton High School Mountaineer. I'm a Lafayette College Leopard. Then I thought I was a California Angel. So I wanted to go back there for that purpose. I think there's an identity situation has to be established. You have to a method and way of playing the game. Angels used to be real gritty. You saw them when you were with Minnesota. We played against one another way back then too. And there's a method of play, tough guys, great pitching, just played hard every second of every game. And I don't know what it's like now. I know we were trying to work back that way back into it while I was there, but I don't know that they have an actual identity yet. And that was a big part of my push, was to create our own identity and not follow anybody else's dance card.
Yeah, that's why
Joe.
That's why you and I never got along, Joe. Because that 2002, Adam Kennedy hit 3 homers in a game, the game of his life. Thanks. Still have nightmares.
I was right, bottom right corner of the dugout. I saw that last one. It was against Santana, right to right central.
Oh yeah,
that thing never came down. AK had the funkiest worst swing ever, but he could square him up.
Hey, Joe, one more follow on the Angels. So how much does it matter to have every little piece of the puzzle with an organization put together in terms of investing in your minor leaguers and everything around it? Because that part has been well documented about the Angels cutting corners sometimes. And why not just, look at an offseason one time and say, let's skip one reliever and make sure we do all of those things that we haven't done, that many other organizations are doing that help the development process?
Well, I mean, listen, the developmental process you don't have to be a cookie cutter and follow everybody else. You have to, like I said, I believe everybody wants to be like everybody else in today's world, in today's game. I really believe in the individuality of the group. You need to hire your instructors, your best instructors. I think part of the problem is that the game's not being passed down from generation to generation right now by actually former players or former coaches, guys that have been there, done that, guys that are proven great instructors, teachers. A lot of the value coaches these days are coming from places, drive lines and things of that nature. And all of a sudden, this is considered the way to pass the game along. And these are today's gurus. I'm here to tell you, man, if I'm starting a group tomorrow, definitely got Larry Bow in that group. Absolutely. I don't care how old Larry Bow is. Yeah, and people like that. We need people to pass the game down, to have it played properly. Guys have to be told when they're screwing up, doing things wrong. And I think you could watch a lot of games today, and I keep getting queried about Did you see how sloppy the play was? Now, listen, you could have sloppy play with the best instructors in the world. I'm not arguing that. But the game is devolved into the point where it's there's a brand. There's like everybody's after their own brand and a show me kind of a thing, as opposed to playing this team concept that's individualized by the Dodgers or the Cardinals or the Pirates of the past, which I loved. And I thought the Angels in the 90s and early 2000s, we had an identity. I thought the Rays, when we got to the Rays, we established an identity. Those are the kind of things that's never talked about anymore. It's all based on analytical data and a sameness. Everybody wants a sameness when it comes down to draft. And furthermore, there are no minor leagues anymore. That's been so watered down. I'm here to tell you, man, if under these circumstances, I'd never get an opportunity to eventually do what I did, because I would have never been placed in a minor league system for the period of time to get the kind of experience I needed to establish becoming a coach, manager, et cetera. So none of that stuff's ever discussed, but that to me, that bothers me. I mean, and if you want to grow fan bases, you're taking so many teams away from cities and leagues, and that was such a big part of our fabric. And I missed that. I think it's probably missed more than people talk about, but all those things matter. All those things count.
Okay, well then how do you balance that, Joe? Because you were famously known for changing things, dress codes, little league days, whatever you used to call them. How do you manage that, though? How do you balance that in today's game? Because like you said, everyone is about their image and their whatever you want to call it, but then you also have to try to do a team, because it starts, listen, I have a 17-year-old, Kratz has a 17-year-old. Those showcases, those events, a lot of times are about, hey, how far can I hit it? How hard can I throw? If we lose, who cares? I got 2 hits. So how do you balance that when you get to the major league level?
I'm with you, man. I've talked about that. Everybody wants to be best in show. It's always about being best in show. Part of it, I live in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. I'm looking out my window right now, and I can look up there, and there's Wilkes-Barre. I can look over there, there's Berwick. Bloomsburg is down the street right there. Freeland's over there on top of the hill. Nobody plays locally, and nobody plays for their city or their team or their locale anymore. It's always about these events, these showcase events that you pay to play, you travel, and it's not necessarily about team and winning anymore. It's about me. And we're promoting that. That's part of the fabric anymore. I would love, I've talked about people locally with this, to establish a league that you then get people to stay here. I played for the Scranton Red Sox for a year in the ACBL. 2 years I spent with them up in Scranton, and I love playing for the Scranton Red Sox. But there's none of this loyalty. Loyalty's really become an archaic term. And I would just love to see more of that. But you're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. You're just going to see bigger and bigger showcases. And within these showcases, you're promoting yourself and not the team or the group. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's just the way it is. But I think that's part of what we're seeing. And the issue, the problem you're talking about, we've created. I think it's been our mistake. And I miss all the Babe Ruth and American Legion and all the stuff we played in this area. And you try to beat your neighbors. It was great. It was a great rivalry. And that's where teamwork comes in.
One quick one. Have you seen the documentary, The Koshien, about the Koshien Championship in Japan?
I have not.
Koshien Championship is all the high schools in Japan, no matter the size, play in a tournament, and you just play single elimination. You're knocked out all the way till the end. So it could be a single A team, could be a 6A team, could be a Florida team, California team. Could we ever do that in the States?
Probably not. I love the concept. I would. We could at least make it a double elimination somehow. I'm good with playing a tournament. Like if Hazleton High School baseball team could stay together and play all summer against other locals, that would be outstanding. You keep wearing that same name on the front of the jersey. You play for that name. Coaching stays the same. You increase your fun. It's still no different than a minor league team. Then you get back to your regular season, and here we go. I love that kind of stuff. I love playing for the front of the uniform over the back of the uniform, but we just don't promote it.
Joe, this was awesome. Always really appreciate the time to have you on. You're one of the best in the media world already, and the game misses you. I know you're not going to say it yourself, but the game misses you too. Follow Joe at Mad Halos with 2 Ds, MADD Halos, and also check out his podcast, Book of Joe, and it is with Tom Verducci, the genius in our sport as well, who covers this game. And yes, he's great. And so I listen to almost every episode, getting caught up right now. Joe, thanks again. Really appreciate the time. Always awesome to have you.
Appreciate it, boys. You guys have a great day. Thank you.
We're looking to get some work done wherever it is, below the belt,
nose hairs, the whole deal. Manscaped's got you covered. Also, in the shower, even your boxers can be silky smooth with Manscaped. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the way to go. And the star of the show is the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. It's a 5th-generation trimmer with 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads. There's the standard one, and then there's the new foil blade. Also, LED spotlights, and it is all waterproof, baby. So I know, actually, we've had quite a few in the chat say that they are big Manscaped fans. So if you don't have any Manscaped products and you want to check it out, you use the code FOUL, FOUL, 20 for 20% off and free shipping, because they'll throw in 2 free gifts for that Performance Package 5.0. There's the boxers. You keep everything together in the Shed travel bag, which I sometimes bring to Todd Fathers just to put on the desk. He said it was weird. I'm not going to do my Manscaped grooming at my friend's studio, so I do that at home. But you also have the Buff Bundle, signature silicone scrubber, the body wash, the whole deal. So join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer, 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code FOUL20, FOUL20. We all have a little Manscaped product action with us.
Can you look up to the ceiling real quick?
Sure. Wait, I want to make sure that we come back.
Look at me, though. Higher.
Check me
yeah.
out.
Yeah, your nose hairs are good.
They're
fine.
good?
Yeah,
all right.
You did a good job the other day.
Thanks, Manscaped.
You did.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.